This is from the most recent week. Within the last week or two, this happened. I'm currently on my way back up to Washington on I-84. Just past the same area, the guy's house who was lying to me about plasma fire. And I'll pass that same guy's house on my way back to Utah. So do I even need to say it? There's not enough foliage around here to get that big of a tree burning that hard. Burn, unburn everywhere. Burnt tips on these. Burnt right in the ground. That's the roots. Okay, that's underground burning that you're seeing right there. And I'm getting sprinkled on a little bit by their sprinklers. But this is the dirt, and that's the roots. And that's the tree as it goes up from the roots. You see it? This is from within the last week or two. Here's the fresh foliage from this year's blooms. That's this year's blooms on this tree. This plasma fire happened within the last week or two, or I would have noticed it because I travel this path back and forth often enough. So here's the burn, unburn, unburn, burn. Let's check out these burned roots some more though, and the giant hole in the ground where the tree once was. The root sticking out. There's an unburned line right there, a small unburned patch here. Yeah. That's the dirt we were just looking at on the bottom of that tree from burning underground. One tree, two tree, maybe three. And a bunch of stumps. And a bunch of burn, unburn lines. See the line going up here? I'm not sure how well the sun is working with me here. But as you can see this, well, I hope you can see, this branch is burnt on this side, unburnt on this side, with a straight line going up. Oh, come on, branch, work with me. There's the unburnt side, there's the burnt side, there's the line going up right there. That's green. That's green on this side. Very tough to burn green stuff. Especially in a straight line and only on one side. So we're gonna talk about that guy. And I'm gonna explain understandings that I've come to about it. But again, before we leave and get too carried away, that's this year's blooms, so this happened a week or two ago. And the exponential increase of these occurring is accelerating rapidly. So I'm going to talk about that guy and how he is much like Robert Otay, G-Slinger 7.7. Some of you may remember the 7.7 G-Slinger days, when one day he was showing you how my boat got vaporized, my trailer got vaporized, my kayak got vaporized, and the next day he's walking around his property, driving around his property saying, I'm sick of hearing people say it got vaporized, it was just a forest fire. And yeah, I think it might have been augmented with some dew. And I would say if there's any dew involved at all, any discussion of a forest fire is a moot point. It's not mostly forest fire with little dew on top. And I'll prove to you that this guy is highly educated in the field of electromagnetics, like he was a technician. And for the longest time, he was trying to free the free energy. And then once it happened around his house in Concal, right there around the same time as the Paradise Fires, he was running around showing you one day how it's plasma, how it's vaporized. The very next day, oh, no, it's not vaporized, and I'm sick of hearing people say that it got vaporized. See how it's burnt on the end here, where it broke away from the tree? And then he proceeded to name the families that own the paper mill companies around there, which are part of who got to him. And the guy that I encountered yesterday was much like Robert Otay, or the guy that told Robert Otay, you need to change your story. I don't care if you said vaporized 3 times. You need to go back out, take a 180, and tell everyone it was just forest fire. Maybe with a little dew, but just forest fire mostly. We're gonna talk about Robert Otay 77 G-Slinger. Link is in the description from Empowered by Knowledge. The only place you'll find him on the internet. After I exposed him and he addressed it, he went to a place called AIM, American Intelligence Media, and was doing interviews on that YouTube channel. Neither 77 G-Slinger or American Intelligence Media exists any longer. I've told you before, we are the intelligence agents. We are the Illuminati, a very small group of people who know much more about what's going on in the world around us than everyone else around us. This is the collective initiation. The 2 songs, Believer and Whatever It Takes, both have the same chorus. Break me down, build me back up, and I'll do whatever it takes. You break me down, you build me up, believer. That breaking you down and building you up is part of an initiation process. We are in the collective initiation. Get it? You're the Illuminati now. The pain must go on. If Trump loaded the New World Order machine with blanks, which I've been telling you he did, would you really want him to stop it now or let the pain carry on a little bit longer so these people remember the lesson that they're being taught that can only be learned through first-hand experience? You cannot be told or shown, especially when it's something you don't want to believe. Even having it in your own personal first-hand experience, many people cannot even believe what's happening before their eyes because they don't want to. You can see all the plasma burn signatures everywhere, right? I don't still have to point it out anymore, do I? Okay, we out. Bump-a-da, we's like them bees flowing straight out of my lids. Because he erased his YouTube page, 77 G-Slinger, and there is no more YouTube page, American Intelligence Media, who was interviewing Robert Otay right after the Concal fires. This is the only thing online I can find of his. 9 years ago, in 2010, this is called Magnetismo versus Electricidad. And as you can see, Robert Arnett Otay, free energy and free thinking is what he used to be into. And he was a truther until they got to him. Uploaded by 77 G-Slinger on March 6th, 2010. I'm gonna play you a little bit of this and you'll recognize this guy is an electronics engineer. And for those of you who remember, this will be a refresher. And for those of you who don't, I'll recap the incident in an upcoming video or in this one. This is Robert Otay, aka 77 G-Slinger, narrating this video titled Magnetism versus Electricity. As you will see from his explanation, he is very well aware of how these energies work and probably involved in the development of directing these energies using these directed energy systems.
Magnetism is the repellent reaction to electricity, not an attractive force. It must be remembered that electricity is the attractive force and magnetism is the repellent force. The attractive force attracts only the attractive force, which is itself. Electricity does not attract the repellent force. Neither does electricity repel the repellent force. On the other hand, magnetism, which is the repellent force, does nothing but perform its function of repelling. It does not attract itself. A repellent force cannot be an attractive force, nor can an attractive force be a repellent force. The energy of magnetism is the elastic energy of expansion, a straining energy ever pushing towards the inertial line of equalized pressure which lies between any two masses, while the energy of electricity is ever pulling towards the pulsing heart, the gravitational nucleus of every mass. Magnetism is the brake upon the wheels of electricity, resisting its generation of higher potential and registering that resistance as heat. Electricity is the accelerator which speeds magnetic radiation, the expansion of which is registered in cold. Electricity and magnetism are actually opposing forces which leap away from each other in exactly the opposite directions. Forces which depart one from the other do not attract each other. Opposing forces oppose each other. Magnetism opposes electricity in its desire to transform this universe into a one solid, motionless, non-elastic ball of positive electricity. Electricity opposes magnetism in its desire to transform the universe into one equalized pressures where opposites disappear into dimensionless non-opposition. It is commonly supposed that the north pole of a magnet is the positive pole which attracts, and the south pole of a magnet is a negative pole which repels. The apparent ability of the positive pole of a magnet to attract the negative, and the negative to attract the positive, has been one of the evidences which has built up the theory that opposite charges attract, and like charges repel. The evidence that like charges repel is as convincing as the moon keeps pace with moving man, or that the earth is flat. It is evidence one can really see, like other illusions of motion. The truth is, the north is the apex of a cone into which a supernormal electric stream is flowing, due to electrical excitation. The reason that the south pole of the bar of iron appears to attract the north pole of the compass needle is that the electric stream is flowing through both the iron and the needle in the same direction, from south to north. The so-called magnetized bar of iron is one in which a strong electric inductive current has so greatly contracted the generative and expanded the radiative cones of energy of the atoms of the iron that the polar magnetic bases and their ecliptic expansions have been vastly reduced, and the speed of the generative and radiative flows correspondingly increased. Atoms of iron not so treated leap towards these faster moving streams. The term magnetized was given to iron so treated because iron exposed to the magnetic field of a generative coil always causes this effect. The magnetic field of a generative coil is the radioactive emanation or discharge of an overcharged coil. It is the degeneration of a generating charge when it leaves the generative coil. In other words, it is the leakage of or overflow from an overfilled receptacle. Not so, however, when it impacts against the iron. The iron bar becomes electrified, not magnetized. The bar of iron and the so-called magnetic poles of a revolving rotating mass, such as this planet, are two different effects. Every mass such as a planet is supposed to be a magnet. It is, but not like the magnetized bar of iron or the compass needle. It is a double magnet. Its two charging poles meet head-on at the gravitative center of the planet, and the oppositely flowing electric streams meet there. In any mass, when these two streams meet, they oppose and spread against each other's force in the direction of the ecliptic plane area of the mass. It is commonly supposed that the magnetic pole of this planet is analogous to a bar magnet, being one continuous bar extending from the negative Antarctic south to the positive Arctic north. The north attractive positive pole of the planet appears to attract the north attractive positive pole of the compass, and the south repellent negative pole of the planet appears to attract the north attractive positive pole of the compass. The explanation lies in the fact that the one north direction of attraction in the bar of iron and the compass is continuous, while the two north directions of the attraction in the planet are opposed. They meet at the center of the Earth at the apices of two opposing cones. The magnetic bases of the cones are respectively in the Arctic and Antarctic regions. As mass generates, the magnetic bases disappear through the poles and reappear at the equator. It has previously been explained that the north of any mass is its gravitative center. The direction north is along the electric axis of this contracting cones of generation, from their bases to their apices. North is always in the direction of general activity, high pressure, and high potential. In any mass, north is the gravitative radiative center, where the ability to attract and repel is at its maximum. On the contrary, south is always in the direction of radioactivity, low pressure, and low potential. South is an extension of the equatorial plane which divides any mass. It is the part of a mass where the radiative emanations are at their maximum. It is the plane of the disappearance of the contours of the expanding cones of radiation. It must continually be borne in mind that the electricity contracts and attracts from within, and that magnetism expands and repels also from within. The Universal 1, pages 172 through 174.
So he was just reading that from a book. But to even be able to understand, even partially, everything he just said, shows that he is very well versed in the energies and most likely involved in the development of these directed energy systems. So, my point is, for those who remember Robert Otay, and if the viewer out there who told me in a comment section that he was the first to bring Robert Otay to my attention, please remind me of who you are and let me know if you can find him anywhere else out there. Where did he land? Because during the California fires, his first couple of videos right after were just like mine. Look, it's vaporized, vaporized. He used the word vaporized and pointed at his own kayak, RV, and something else that he used the term vaporized on. And either the next video or one video in between the two, he's driving down the road in his truck with shit all over the window, bugs and dirt and papers on the dash, so there's a reflection in the windshield, and he keeps the camera sweeping saying, I'm sick of everyone saying it's all vaporized. It's just a forest fire. And he keeps the camera moving so you can't really see the detail of any of the burn patterns. And I zoom in. I still have those screenshots that I sent to myself. I'll show you in one of the upcoming videos, where I zoom in on his property to his front gate on fence posts that are this big around. One of them is reduced to nothing other than a foot or two left at the bottom. The other one's untouched. The one that's reduced to nothing, burnt on the inside, unburnt on the outside. I bring this to the attention of everyone in his comment section by carpet bombing that comment section. He makes a video, not types a comment, makes a video. I apologize to all my viewers, that scumbag, whatever he called me. Jeff Snyder over there on a YouTube channel by the same name. That scumbag. He was trying to lead his audience over to my page. Because between the time where he's showing you it's vaporized and calling it vaporized, and the time when he starts saying, I'm sick of hearing people say it's all vaporized, just a forest fire. Look, there's the forest, obviously it burned. Forests catch fire, people. And yeah, there may have been a little, it may have been augmented with dews, but overall it's just a forest fire, people. Augmented with dews? If there's any dew at all, discussion about forest fire is no longer part of the discussion. It's not mostly forest fire with a little dew on top. If there's any directed energy weapons involved at all, the whole thing, discussion of forest fire is no longer appropriate. You can see from his intelligence about the subject matter that he's very well versed in these energies. And in the comment section of his own videos, he started naming the paper mill companies and the families that own them that live in the area that would be making money off of this. He was grateful to have someone like me to expose him, so whoever was using him and telling him what you better say or else, he could say, that scumbag Jeff Snyder over there on that YouTube channel by the same name. Yeah, that scumbag. I apologize to all of you for that Jeff Snyder commenter. If he wasn't trying to lead people to my comments, to my videos, he would have left it alone or just mentioned it in passing without specifically mentioning it twice, and that he's running a YouTube page over there by the same name. We'll talk about Matt another time, but he may be a similar case. He wants you to figure out who he is. But as for this guy yesterday that started lying about the plasma fires, there's only 2 facts that are necessary to know for fact that that's plasma fire, because you can see with your own eyes and you've seen it 100 other times, and to know for fact that he said he started those fires because you heard it with your own ears. Everything else doesn't matter. Those 2 facts combined, open and shut case. He's lying. That's plasma fire. A human being with a lighter and matches cannot burn wood in that fashion. He did not burn those. The original example I had of him that I call Old Man Thayne, link will be in the description just as it was in the other video. Very close up of a log that's clearly plasma burned. Old man's coming down the road in a truck, and I show you the old man's coming. I push pause, and the next thing you see is me filming it again, saying that old man said he did it, when you can clearly see he didn't do it. He said, oh yeah, it's just an old stump. Every time I get some extra brush piled up, I just come over here and throw it on the old stump, try and get rid of that stump. Because when he rolled up in the truck and I'm filming on his property where I'm there to pick up a load of hay, I said, what do you think about this? Oh, I don't know, I did it. And as soon as he said that and started telling me about how he piles up wood on top, I was like, okay, so the hay's over there, right? I need to meet you over there. I was just flipping around here to go back over to where the load is. Okay, I'll meet you down there. He drives on. I finish filming. You can see that's a plasma fired stump. And nobody has brought any extra sticks over and put on top of it and burned, or it would have the external burn signatures on it, not just the internal burning signatures on it. You would be able to see if someone had come and put sticks on there and burned them in the typical fashion. And so after that, I told you that not only did he not burn that tree, he didn't come over afterwards and throw any sticks on there and light up either. And I gave him the benefit of the doubt, thinking, well, maybe he's just kind of like wanting to keep everyone calm because we're not sure what this is, and until we figure it out, let's just keep it between us and tell the women and kids I done it. All right, deal, all right. And I gave him the benefit of the doubt that his motives, that he had good intention for the reason he was lying. And I started to offer this guy the same opportunity. That I know another guy kind of said the same thing, and I think he was just trying to kind of keep everyone calm. At the point where he points out, he's like, you notice they're all separate, right? I say, yeah, because there was a bush growing there and there, and there's, okay, lots of shrubbery. Is that your truck over there? You staying out of trouble? At that point is when he became hostile. Not after I said you see how hostile he got after I called him on his bullshit? It was before. So I'll probably discuss a few more of these nuanced details about how you know when someone's lying, because I know. But that's all secondary. The 2 facts that matter is that it's a fact that that's plasma fire. Not 95% probability, 100% fact. And when he says he did it, that means it's 100% fact that he's lying. I know a lot of people are having trouble accepting that there's people out there who would actively suppress this truth. Charge me with trespassing? I'd say this truth you're withholding from humanity is trespassing against all of humanity and all of God's creation. And there's a higher law that doesn't give a shit about the deed to your land. You think that's your land? I keep hearing people say our oceans when they're talking about these UFOs that go underwater, submersibles. And they say, well, they appear to be this and that in our oceans, and our oceans are this deep, and our oceans this, and our oceans that. Our oceans? Think again. So this guy yesterday that was lying, and I haven't read all the comments in the comment section, but I can see that some people are having a real problem with accepting that that's what that was. And other people can see it as clearly as I can, not because they believe me, because they've seen with their own eyes plasma fire, 1 a week for the last 3 years. They all have those same burn signatures. And so they can see with their own eyes that's plasma fire, and they heard with their own ears he said he did it, and they know with their own information processor that cannot be true. Everything else, once you take it in context as those two facts equal he is lying, then these other behaviors of his start to make sense. Maybe he's part of a military contractor, you know, aerospace, electronics engineer type guy who's been in on the development and the deployment of these type of weapons. Or maybe he's in on the racketeering end of it with the paper mill. Either way, he was actively suppressing that truth. He came with a prepared and prepackaged lie about how he did it. And that's why I called him on his shit as soon as I heard it, because I have ran into this once before with old man Thayne. At the time I gave Thayne the benefit of the doubt of having good motives and intentions. This guy, not a chance. He felt so threatened by me pointing out magnetic field, electrical surge. If he was truly just a guy, no, dude, I just burned these, but what's all that stuff you're talking about? Or what are all these other incidences you're talking about? I just burned these. I mean, obviously you don't believe me, but I did. What's all this other stuff you're talking about? He wouldn't just instantly go to, okay, is that your truck? Staying out of trouble. After I had named off all of these things, trying to get him to talk to me, letting him know, I know. Magnetic field, ground current. The densest piece of wood burns from the inside out right next to unburned pieces of weeds and leaves that are highly flammable. I'm explaining to him how I know what I'm looking at, trying to get him to talk to me and let him know it's okay, you know, no women and children around here right now. We can talk about this. I know what's going on and let's talk. And when he reacted the way he did, it was because he felt so threatened. Threatened, like maybe he's got non-disclosure agreements under which he is bound to do anything and everything possible to contain the information and make a report to the appropriate department when there's a potential breach of security and a leak. Someone like me comes along saying shit like what I was doing. And he was making sure that he did everything he could. If we weren't in broad daylight, he probably would have gotten physical with me. I wish you guys could have seen him outside my window screaming, "Loser!" as I drove away. After 3 years, the plasma fires were a huge phenomenon at first. Over the past 3 years, the fact that still no one knows about them is an even greater phenomenon. The fact that I've ran into 2 of those people now that tell me they did it, that's a phenomenon all of its own. And without getting into spiritual explanations like hijacked biobot transceivers, maybe something like he's part of a organization that's somehow affiliated, and he has dedicated himself to suppressing that truth. He is committed to suppressing that truth. And when I kept pressing him and saying, no, dude, I know what I'm looking at, he got so threatened, told me, all right, you stay on the other side of that fence. And then he told me, I'm going to send you to jail for trespassing. When obviously I wasn't trespassing, or he wouldn't have told me stay on the other side of that fence. He got so hostile and aggressive so quickly, it's clear he was threatened by what I was revealing. It wasn't about, this is my privacy or private property. It wasn't about, I'm insulted because you called me a liar. It was about this truth that I'm so committed to suppressing that you're insisting on revealing and pressing me to concede that I know. You're telling me you know that I'm lying is what you're telling me with everything you keep saying. And as I continue telling him that, he got served with a notice and an indictment. We are the intel agents. So I think I'm gonna just leave that at that for now. I'll show you the images from Robert Otay, 77 G-Slinger, if and when I can pull them up off of my sent emails, because I think I sent them to Staples to get them printed out. Robert Otay was clearly a highly technologically developed electronics engineer, or something of the sort. That video, which we just watched, was posted in 2010. I'm sure he learned a lot between 2010 and 2018 when he started showing you everything's been vaporized, and then the next day, I'm sick of hearing people say it's been vaporized. Might have been a little augmented with dew, but it's mostly forest fire. Someone got to him, no doubt. Maybe someone like this guy. This guy is something like Robert Otay. This guy is affiliated with the cover-up. How did I run into him? Not by chance, not by coincidence. I served him with a notice. And as I was sitting there letting him know I know what I'm looking at, I was also letting him know I know you're lying and part of the cover-up. And he suddenly felt so threatened, he rode his fucking four-wheeler out to my truck, stood there in front of my truck, told me he's gonna send me to jail for trespassing, and then as you could see from my tone of voice, okay, I won't go anywhere near your property, I won't go near your property. And as I left, I said, thank you for your contribution. And he overheard me say, you see how hostile he got when I called him on his bullshit? He was right here within 3 feet of me, and if he wanted some, he could have had some. By the time I was pulling away, he's outside my passenger window on his four-wheeler, screaming, you think you're so big behind that camera in that truck? Why don't you come out here? I was just out there. And then as I pull away, he screams, loser, twice. That touched something so deep for him, and it's beyond any explanation. So anyone who's saying, I think you were out of line, Jeff, and I think I would have reacted the same way. The only way you could spit something like that out of your mouth is to dismiss the two facts. That that's plasma fire, and that he says he started it. The only way you can, well, maybe you should your tone, maybe you were disrespectful. None of that shit, that rings so hollow. You're in deep denial, spiritual blindness, or both. It's okay. I have trouble accepting that there's people out there doing that too. I would rather believe any other explanation that could possibly explain it, other than that guy is deeply committed to concealing that which I am deeply committed to revealing, and that's how you know we're on different teams.